What's up, guys? It's Brandon Flash. The day has finally come. I'm driving and experiencing a Tesla Cybertruck for the first time. So as I mentioned, this is a 2024 Tesla Cybertruck. This one is a Foundation Series, not a Cyber Beast, just the all-wheel drive variant. Shout out to EV Universe for letting me try out this truck. It's pretty sweet. We're going to be charging it. I'm driving it and just giving you guys my overall impressions. I've only driven about half a mile so far just to bring it over to this parking lot so I can shoot this video. And let's just start with a full tour here. So I'm doing a walk around. Overall, the build quality seems pretty okay on this one. There are some defects. I'll get to those in a minute. But it's not as bad as some of them that I have seen. We'll start on the front here. So, looks fine. These corners are not great. This is sticking out a little bit. This is actually lined up pretty well. This corner, I don't know why Tesla did this to themselves realistically. This is sticking up above the hood. So you can kind of see that there. And then there's just no way that these are ever going to be perfect on every truck, especially up here as well. And it's just a recipe for dissatisfaction. This is sticking in a little bit more compared to this. There's a little bumper here on this edge. We'll show that in a second when I open it. Same over here. This is sticking out a little bit as well. This is sticking out. We'll open this up. It's not the most satisfying sound opening that, and it's even worse closing it. We'll get to that in a second. This space, not very useful. I'd say this is more of a bench than it is a front trunk. You can't really pile anything up too high because then if you're driving around and stuff shifts, it might fall out when you open it. It's better than nothing, but that's a pretty low benchmark. Most suitcases may not even fit in here, especially if they're expanded at all, like carry-on suitcases. The underside of this, I feel like on a $100,000 truck, there should be some sort of like trim piece here rather than showing all the tack welds and stuff, or not tack welds, but like spot welds. You can see the underside here. So this is just the bare metal from the other side. We do have these edge protectors here. I think some of the early ones didn't have that. But let's see if it tries to stop closing it. If I put a little bit of force on it, I'm not going to try and crush my fingers. So, okay. That was a fairly firm trying to close. Let's do a little bit lighter. That took quite a bit of force. If that was a kid or something, it may not shut that well for them. So we'll shut this fully. Listen to the noise. It just sounds so tinny. I don't know. I'll reserve some judgment there. Up here in the front bumper, camera is offset, which I guess makes sense for states that have a front license plate. I'm not a fan of this being built into the bumper because there are quite a few states that do not require front plates. And I would rather have this just be clean across if you don't have a front plate. These headlights, I don't know who decided that was a good idea. I've seen some photos, some videos from colder winter states, and snow just builds up here. And yes, this is a problem on all vehicles with LED headlights, that they don't melt the snow as effectively, but most vehicles don't have a shelf in front of those LED headlights that if you're driving in snow, you're just going to get snow that accumulates here and then has a ledge to actually sit on, versus a Rivian, for example. A Rivian has LED headlights. They can get some snow or ice buildup, but it actually can fall off if it gets a little bit warm, whereas this has the shelf. So you'd have to melt through potentially inches of snow that could build up here and then have it go away. We got some bugs here as expected. This is not a perfectly clean truck. Very flat surface, so not ideal, builds up bugs. You also get this lip here as well. Again, build quality is not bad up here. I do actually like the front kind of quarter of the truck, if you will. I think that looks pretty good. This proportion looks pretty good, basically mirror forward, pretty small overhang, pretty sharp angles. The light bar looks good. This truck did not come with wheel caps or center caps or lug bolt covers, so these are actually aftermarket. It actually comes with those showing and that center exposed with rust, which is, again, normal. However, these trucks were intended to ship with wheel covers, However, those wheel covers were actually digging into the tires and wearing into them, causing some issues. I don't know if it actually caused any like true issues, but still not ideal. So they stopped shipping with those, and apparently those will be shipped out to owners. Coming around to the side, so we have the mirrors that are apparently removable easily. This truck has them. We also have the giant wiper. So it has these holes here so that it's not actually building up kind of some air and making a sail from the side. And it's almost 4 feet long, so giant wiper. Hopefully if you're watching this, you already know that a little bit, or at least have an idea of what's going on with the Cybertruck. Here we have one of the Foundation Series etchings into the metal. All of the mirrors are black like this, which is fine, but seems a little bit cheap seeming. I don't know. I don't love it. We have the buttons here for both the doors. You can see all the fingerprints. Again, this truck is not perfectly clean, but still, it's not filthy either. And it's just building up so many fingerprints. Kind of crazy. You have these lips here on the side fairing, or kind of sill. I don't know what you want to call that. But just building up dust, as you can see. On both the front and the rear, this is just going to get kicked up dirt and build up there. Here we have the wheel turned all the way, so we have the rear steer engaged, which is pretty cool. Looks broken. It's not. That's normal. Here you again have one of those lips that's just going to build up stuff there. And then you also have that on the back here. You're going to get a lot of kicked up stuff built up. And then this is just, it just doesn't feel that solid. You kind of want to step up on this if you need to, but I also wouldn't trust it. Tesla is selling some covers for these to make them more durable. But should you really need that on a $100,000 truck that's apparently indestructible? I don't think so. Let's open up the tonneau cover. If it wants to open, there we go. Overall, I'd say that's pretty good. Open up the bed. So you can see that this is not under tension. This is not under tension when that's down. If you sit on it, for example, then it goes under tension. So it's almost a little bit spring-loaded, kind of. It's fine. Here you have your onboard power. I don't know what Tesla's calling it, power share, I think. So two NEMA 520s. You can tell that they're 20 amp because they have the slit there. And then you have a NEMA 1450, so that's 50 amp. Close that. Under here you have some storage. Not the largest storage, I would say. There you have the little drain plug that's the shape of a Cybertruck, which is kind of cool. Then you have these dividers as well. Not bad. You do not have any sort of emergency release in there. And the way I think they get away with that, actually, maybe, yeah, there's no emergency release on here, is because of these dividers. You could not fit a child in here or anything, so they can get away with not having to have those drains. We'll shut that. Seems pretty nicely shut. Up there, you will see some hooks for tie downs. And let me show you what that's like if I try to reach that. For context, I'm 6'3", and I cannot even come close to reaching that with my hand all the way down, which is just kind of crazy. I don't know how any smaller person would reach that. You'd basically just have to climb in, which again, this truck is currently at entry height and it's already pretty high. And then to get up here, you have to go all the way up here, which is again, not that much fun. Here's that window going into the cab. And then that's where the tonneau cover goes. You can see the E-coat body color there. You can see into the cab there. These seem pretty strong, actually. All of these hooks, they're actually Torx keyed in. So these cannot be easily moved around. It's not like a little latch or anything that you can release and then slide them or put them as you will. You're pretty firmly set with where those are. Same with the bottle opener here, Foundation Series things. We'll get down just like that. Here you can see some secondary lights because when the bed is open, you actually have to have brake lights exposed. Shut that. It is soft close. Let me show you that. Works pretty well. We'll shut the tonneau. seems to be pretty decent. This is apparently rated for, I believe, 250, 300 pounds, so I could climb on there if I wanted to. I don't know if I will, but you could. Coming around here, you have the kind of accessory ports here. I don't 100% know how these open, and I'm not going to break it, but this is where you could attach crossbars. You have these up the side as well. And then there should be a way to attach a light bar as well. I believe those use these here. This piece, it appears to be basically just trim. This doesn't seem to be structural at all. So this piece goes all the way back to here. And this has a pretty sharp edge here and here. This is almost a rounded edge, but then comes to a T. Same here. This kind of sticks up. I don't know how I feel about that. We've got our side cameras there. And then all of this plastic just seems a little kind of cheap for a truck that's apparently indestructible and that you can shoot. There's a lot of kind of chintzy plastic on it that I'm not a huge fan of. It's fine, but I think the standard should be higher if we're going to say this is an indestructible truck. Like, just look how kind of movie that is, or flexy that is. You also have this gigantic windshield, so you can kind of see how far forward that is from the driver. So here's your steering wheel right about here, and then you have that much space in front of you before you get to the front of the windshield. And then you have another 3-ish feet in front of the edge of the windshield to the front of the truck. And yes, it angles all the way down, but it's just, it feels so long in the front, even though on the exterior, it's not that actually long in the front, especially from the edge of the windshield. It's very deceiving. So we'll get in here. I'll show you the interior as well. So that's how the door opens. Let me show you that again as if the window wasn't open. That's interesting. So it actually rolled the window down further than it did with the window all the way down. So we'll do that. This edge is pretty sharp. These doors, they have some interesting choices, I would say. This emergency release just seems asking for people to use it rather than the proper release here, because this is far more obvious, and this is, I'd say, more in line with how some trucks are. And then your actual door release for the electronic release is all the way up here. Here you can see the actual body. So this is kind of the frame of the truck, if you will. And this is all just painted black. Same with the hinges. You can see this one is VIN 4837, but it doesn't seem like Tesla's doing sequential VINs. All of this kind of soft plastic, or not soft plastic, hard plastic, which if you have anything down here, it will rattle. You do have some rubber down here, but unlike newer Teslas that have carpet in here, this is all plastic. So if you have water bottles, charging adapters, whatever, they will rattle here. These window switches are pretty nice. They're kind of just a squared off version of Tesla's latest window switches that they're using on other vehicles. Here you have the squircle. So right now it's just kind of in force feedback because it's turned all the way. It's not actually moving the wheels. So you can see that. Because again, there's no physical connection between this wheel and the actual wheels out there. You have the textured dash, which just seems like a nightmare to clean. You can already see some dust built up in there that you'll need a little brush or something to get out. And you can kind of see what I mean with how large this windshield is and how far forward it goes. Again, I'm 6'3", and this would be a struggle for me to clean this windshield. You would need some sort of wand or extension or something to do that. Interior rear view mirror is tiny, probably the tiniest I've ever seen on a car, and it's useless because when the tonneau is closed, you cannot see anything. Screen is the largest in any Tesla. I believe it's 15.7 inches or something like that. Or sorry, 18.5 is, I believe, correct. And it doesn't feel any more useful than the Model Y or Model 3 screen. It's very responsive, as you would expect on a Tesla. You can see just how responsive that is. And that trip, let's just do Minneapolis, for example. see how the route planning looks. And right now we're at 41%, as you can see. It's wanting me to go to Colfax. We're in Raleigh area right now. Let's just see what those charge times look like. So those are some long charge times. Let's see what the charger options on those legs look like. And they move the buttons down here instead of up here like on every other Tesla. Not the best choice in my opinion. So you can see there's a lot of chargers along these routes, but for some reason it wants us to do very long charges. So 45 minutes, hour 5, 35, 35, 35, 30, 35. I don't know why it would route to a charger in downtown Chicago. That makes absolutely no sense. So not great, but that's just par for the course with Tesla Route Planner lately, I'd say. And then we have a lot more options than we do on most Teslas. We have a separate Wi-Fi and Bluetooth menu, which other Teslas do not. So that's a little bit strange. There's our controls menu. And let me just show you the software version on this one. So this one we're on 2024.8.12. And in autopilot, we still do not have even basic autopilot. So there's traffic aware cruise control. There's no lane keeping and there's no FSD beta, which is really kind of just insulting to buyers that bought these with full self-driving capability being forced upon them because it's a foundation series. So you have no choice but to get FSD, whether you want it or not, even though they just dropped the price to $99 a month for the subscription that left the purchase price at $12,000. You have no choice. You have to buy it. Here you can see efficiency since this vehicle was new, so 428 miles on the odometer. 408 watt hours per mile, so that's roughly 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour, which is not bad. I don't know how the owner's been driving it. I would imagine not the most gently in the first 400 miles, so that seems pretty reasonable to me. And this interface just seems overly complicated. It's cool that it represents the wheel position. Let's go out and show the charge port. Charge port's kind of cool. I mean, it is what it is. I do wish that this had a charge port in the front. It's a little bit slow, I'd say. But there you can see what a 1000 volt NACS charge port looks like, because this is the first Tesla that ships with a 1000 volt charge port. They're of course backwards compatible, so not a huge difference. But I wish Tesla had put the charge port up here, for example. Potentially down here or in the bumper or something, so that you could use the same supercharger locations but in the front, so that you're better for towing, and because it's such a large vehicle that you would have more flexibility. Anyway, that's my tour of the Cybertruck. I'll show you the back seat quick. Seats so far very comfortable. I've just sat in it for a little bit. This is not a great design. This is just asking for kids to get their fingers hurt just by hitting it, or whether it hits into their hands or something. You cannot shut it on your fingers easily because it has the prop rod that comes out, but still not ideal. Again, hard plastic back here. We do not have an emergency release. We have a giant window switch. And then we have the button all the way up here. This is how you open the seats up. So you pull that little piece and then lift that up. Normally that goes up a little easier, but the kid's seat is in the way there. And then the factory floor mats, or not factory, but optional floor mats that come with the Foundation series, they go back pretty far. And this one does have the correct door hinges that give you a full 90-degree opening, which is actually pretty excellent. Just like that. And there we have it for a tour of the 2024 Cybertruck Foundation series. You are joining me inside the Cybertruck Foundation series all-wheel drive. We're navigating over to a supercharger. We're actually going to be charging a Rivian on the supercharger. We're going to, okay, that is upside down and throws me off like crazy. I don't know why Tesla sometimes does not north up. It's very disorienting. So we'll head over there. And this does not have stocks for the steering, or for turn signals, or for drive. So you have the Squircle. We're going to put it in drive just like that. And then we'll press the accelerator to drive. and we'll get to it. We have the wheels turned fully right now, so I might do a circle or two just to kind of get used to the drive-by-wire. And you can see how it kind of just goes over like crazy with a little bit of movement, just like that. So you never go past about 330 degrees of movement, or sorry, actually less than that, because if you're going from center. So we're in a random school parking lot right now just to film the intro. So you can see you cannot actually go past 180 degrees of movement. Go out this way. It's actually a little bit disorienting using the steering. And let me just show you the drive settings that we're in right now. We're in dynamic, so I have it in comfort right now. You can see there's a Rivian driving behind us. That's the owner's other vehicle that we're going to be supercharging. So we'll turn right here. I am not a fan of these steering wheel mounted turn signals at all. We're gonna see how people react. That Model Y driver just gave us a salute. I actually filmed the intro to this video at a random school parking lot because I knew that I could not film anything on the outside of this at a supercharger without just getting absolutely mobbed. Especially with a Rivian that we're going to be supercharging as well. It's just going to be a madhouse trying to shoot anything. But it will be interesting to see nonetheless. Maybe I'll get some reactions from people of what they think of the different vehicles. So initial impressions, you can definitely hear the tire noise, which I'm not a huge fan of. You can hear those all-terrain tires. Turn climate. We'll leave climate on for right now. It's a little too hot to not have that on. But you can tell that if it had all-season tires instead of these all-terrain tires, it would be quieter. And these are pretty shaved down all-terrain tires. They do not have full tread depth of the same model tire that would be available otherwise for other vehicles. They're Wrangler Territory, if I remember correctly, but someone correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. Right now we're in Raleigh, North Carolina. You can see just the crazy amount of Teslas. I think that's like the 5th or 6th one we've seen so far in just a couple minutes of driving. And I'll give you guys the efficiency once we get there as well. So we're driving about 13 miles on this trip to the supercharger. This will of course be not my full impressions of the vehicle from very limited experience, but will still give us a pretty good idea of what I think. Another Model Y. There's quite a bit of motor noise, surprisingly. It's weird that they put the signal status right there in the middle. It seems like a very strange spot for it. And then we have our rear view mirror here, our rear view camera, so you can put that there or up there as you wish, because again the rear view mirror is completely useless with the tonneau closed, which we have it closed right now. And you just have absolutely massive blind spots where those wing panels are in the back. There is yet another Model Y. I'm going to try and pay attention a little bit to people's reactions as we drive by. Everyone is turning their head and looking at this. You cannot own this vehicle and be shy and not want to talk to people, because everyone will try and talk to you. Again, these turn signals are just stupid. I don't know why they're like this. And I would say the only slightly reasonable explanation is that if you're using FSD, then you don't need to signal, but that's just admitting how terrible these are if you do actually have to signal it yourself. And right now, that's no excuse, because on the Cybertruck, you have no form of driver assistance. You don't even have basic autopilot. And I realize I'm really harping on that, and it might sound a little annoying, but I don't know how they could ship their flagship product without even basic autopilot. I understand if FSD Beta, or FSD Supervised as it's called now, is a bit delayed for this vehicle, new form factor and stuff like that, but I would think that they would at least ship base autopilot on day one of the Cybertruck for public deliveries. They've been testing these for a while. They've been spotted for quite a few months. You would think that even just all those test drivers would want to have basic autopilot, or it would get pretty annoying to drive these all over the place. But apparently not. Apparently it's asking too much for Tesla to include their kind of staple feature on their flagship vehicle on day one. Rivian coming up to the side here. I must say, driving in front of and behind the Rivian, it just reminds me how good the Rivian looks in comparison to this. And there's some angles of this that look good, and some parts that look good, but the Rivian on the whole, I think, just looks a lot better. It just looks like they actually tried to make a good-looking vehicle and not just different for sake of being different. So I'm going to let there be a little bit of space here, and then I will floor it so you guys can experience that. So, 40 roll. We're at 40% state of charge. It's pretty good. I would say it's nothing spectacular. This is just the all-wheel drive. This is not the Cyber Beast, so it's not the fastest version. But kind of unenthusiastic, actually. I mean, it's adequate, but it's nothing special. So we've got a fair bit of wind noise. I'll be quiet here for a minute so you can hear that. But the whole front end of the vehicle just seems loud. Let me turn off the climate so you can really hear what is road noise. You can see my speed there. So we're going 70 plus or minus, airplane overhead. And there you can kind of tell what the noise is. I'm going to turn the climate back on. It is too warm to not have that on. You can definitely tell that the tires are the cause of a slight rumble as you're driving, which I don't love. If it had all-season tires, I think it would be an improvement actually compared to this. So while the all-terrain tires look cool, I think they're actually detrimental to the overall quality and enjoyment of this vehicle. Are in chill mode actually, so I guess putting it in relaxed gives you chill mode, so we'll put it in sport and then I'll floor it again just so that way you guys can see. So that's okay, that's the acceleration that I expected. That's a lot better than the chill mode, so kind of disregard my thoughts that I gave previously on the acceleration. It's better than that indicated. And again, so pretty good power. I just didn't see the chill mode previously because they've, for some reason, decided to move things all around on this interface compared to other Teslas. And even though I drove 3 hours of my Tesla here, it still is different for some reason. I don't know why they would do that. We'll go into dynamics here. We'll do custom. So acceleration standard. Let's do relaxed on ride and handling. And Right now we're in higher for ride height, but let's lower it down. It's pretty stiff right now, actually, surprisingly. So we're on lower, relaxed, standard for acceleration. We'll lower it down. Model 3, everyone is staring at us, the whole family staring at us. And then a lot of drivers are just completely oblivious to this, which is, I'd say, the norm. If you guys have driven in a Cybertruck, definitely comment down below. I'm curious what you think. And also say what you drive normally as your basis for comparison. If you're not familiar with my channel, I previously owned a Rivian R1T that I put 27,000 miles on in about 9 months. I now have a Tesla Model Y with the 4680 battery pack, so same cells as the Cybertruck, but the previous generation. And that's my daily driver. I've put 23,000 on that in about 9 months. So definitely put a lot of miles on a lot of different EVs. Before that, I had a Polestar 2. I had a Volkswagen ID4, I've had a 2015 Model S. So everyone is staring at this. We have to get over. And it is preconditioning the battery pack. It's been running a decent while, actually. I am able to now find this turn signal buttons without having to look, I guess, which is an improvement. And it actually is not completely terrible on this with steer-by-wire that the wheel is always upright-ish, whereas on Model 3 refresh or on Model S, Model X refresh, the wheel is actually potentially upside down, and that's very disorienting for those buttons, especially if you're needing to signal while your wheel is turned, like if you're in a roundabout, for example. So I don't think that doing steering wheel buttons without stocks works on vehicles that do not have steer-by-wire. Pedal tuning is, of course, very good, as you would expect on a Tesla. One pedal driving works great. But again, a huge shame that we don't have autopilot at all. I definitely would have put it on there, on that bit of interstate. Let's go. Get a little body roll in there. It can hustle a bit, actually. It feels big and heavy, even though it's actually lighter than a Rivian. But the Rivian feels smaller because it is a bit smaller, but it's heavier. So it's a little bit of a conundrum there in terms of driver dynamic there, or drive dynamic. Driving dynamics, that's what I was looking for. The bottom hinge pedal is pretty interesting compared to every other Tesla. Most Teslas have top hinged pedals, but a bottom hinge pedal is a little bit more common on sports cars, actually, compared to trucks. These mirrors are huge too, and they actually kind of give you blind spots. On the interstate, this steer-by-wire feels pretty normal because you're just going straight. You're never really applying a ton of movement. Ride quality is actually really good. And it isolates you from the bumps quite a bit, both noise and harshness. I have to wonder what other people think as they're driving along when they see both the Rivian and the Cybertruck driving together. They must think that there's some sort of thing going on to have both of them at the same time. Going by a school activity bus up here. We'll see if everyone starts looking at us. Kids seem to love the Cybertruck. Adults are a little bit more confused by it. And I would say even I'm a little bit confused by it still. There's parts of it that I like. There's things that I don't like, or things that I think are a little bit strange. I really think that this tech needs to come to the rest of Tesla's lineup, and then it will be really good. But right now in the Cybertruck, it's just on such a polarizing vehicle that it's hard to appreciate some of the nice things about it, some of the advancements they've made with this, without being polarized by the Cybertruck itself. Whereas if you put the 48-volt steer-by-wire onto, say, a Model S or a Model X, or even the 3 and Y once it becomes cost feasible to do so, then you can really evaluate how that's impactful to the experience on a vehicle that's actually affordable and not crazy polarizing like this is, and really not for a whole lot of benefit, in my opinion. Sure, the exoskeleton is cool, but I don't think it's actually a load-bearing exoskeleton from what I can tell. If there's something that says otherwise from a reputable source other than Tesla, I'm all ears. I'd like to see it. But otherwise, it seems like they're mostly just body panels on top of a normal unibody construction that are maybe slightly more load-bearing than typical, but not a true exoskeleton, if you will. Get over a lane. And it boogies, which is pretty great. Once we get off here, I'm going to roll down the windows. We'll drive around at a little bit lower speed. I want to see if any people try to yell or make comments or anything, just out of curiosity. So we'll go a little bit past the supercharger itself. Again, one pedal calibration, really good. Feels really nimble going through corners. There are so many Teslas here. I'm just curious what people think. Hopefully there's not too much wind noise with the windows down. The cooled seat is working pretty well. I'd say it's not as effective as on the Rivian, unfortunately. We'll just do a whole lap here. It's still weird looking at the rear view mirror in the center and not seeing anything, just seeing my phone recording the video. So I find myself, rather than looking at the screen to see what's behind me with the camera, I'm actually looking at the side view mirrors. So let's go in here. It turns so sharp, which is actually pretty cool. I definitely thought this would be a little bit more of a neighborhood than it is, but that is what it is. Pulling up to the Cybertruck should be interesting, or not to the Cybertruck, to the Supercharger should be interesting. Looks like there are 2 stalls available of this 12 stall, so it's nearly full. We're here on a Saturday afternoon, evening, so it should be interesting to see how people handle this being here and whether they kind of make a big deal out of it or not. Let's see what happens. Again, this ride is actually pretty impressive, I'd say. Around. everyone is staring at this. It's almost comical. As I said before, you cannot own this and try to be subtle. It simply won't happen. Squealing tire just by turning normally, that's strange. There's some rough Teslas here. So we actually don't need to charge, so I'm going to park here. I'm just going to park over here. So a bit disorienting using the steer by wire with the backup. It's strange because it reacts so quickly that, I don't know, it feels like it should be dulled a little bit when you're moving at low speed like this, but it doesn't. So there you have my driving impressions of the 2024 Tesla Cybertruck. Tesla. Just Teslas like crazy. I would love to hear what you guys think of my impressions of the Tesla Cybertruck, whether you have any questions on my experience, whether you agree with my kind of experiences, whether you think I'm wrong on my opinions on this, or if there's things that you think I should change. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys on the next one.